St. Mary XL. And it seems like it was just yesterday that he came before the council and he asked for some help to fund a study by the Urban Land Institute. That was 2 years ago that we got this report, and I think you've seen it. Since that report came out, we've been really trying to follow up, and in the course of following up, we've come across some possibilities that may hold some promise for the diversification of the economy through a national estuary research reserve. And here to explain a little bit more are my fellow board members, Kelly Woodrow and Margaret Terry, who are going to take you through a series of slides that will help explain what exactly this community part is.
Mention your name.
So my name's Margaret Terrio, born and raised in Morgan City area. I'm sure a few of you may know my parents, Chip and Patsy Metz. I love this area. Moved away for a little while. Came home about 13 years ago. 13 for here to Morgan City about 14 years ago. Since then I've had 2 boys. Equally fell in love with the area, the nature it provides, the fishing, the hunting, the roughing around. And when this project fell into our lap with St. Mary XL, Kelly and I kind of jumped on it. We were completely ecstatic because we could see not just our community thriving from it, but our boys and maybe had a chance to come home with us. So I'm gonna let Kelly kind of chit chat a little bit next.
Kelly Lynn Boudreau. So as she introduced, I have 3 little boys. I'm married to Steve, and then my family owns G&J Land and Marine in Morgan City, and my husband works there now. We actually moved away for a while and lived in Colorado. It was a very, very beautiful place, and decided to come home and take over the business with my brother as a 3rd generation living in Morgan City. And you know, being home over the last 10 years, I've fallen back in love with this area, with St. Mary Parish, and I'm so proud to raise my kids here, because one, for the community, but even more for the land that's here. And I really believe in it, and as Margaret said, having this fall into our laps and what Ms. Monica and Ms. Catherine Holcomb have really worked hard to do is look for different opportunities here, and this opportunity is something that we can really stand behind and be proud of. So we're gonna go through it.
Yep. So this is what the biggest thing is that this is a time-sensitive issue for our parish. You can switch to the next one. First of all, let us educate you a little bit about what a LaNERR is, and we'll be brief because we know you all are pretty educated with all this. But a LaNERR is a National Estuarine Research Reserve. There's 29 across our country right now. Louisiana fails to have one. It is funded through NOAA, our National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. You'll see with the LaNERRs and later on in slides, these fundings are 70% federal and 30% state funding. An estuary, what's an estuary? That's what we're highlighting here. You can go to the next slide. We found a great video. Hopefully, y'all have audio? Audio?
We can ask permission. Good.
Just, can you press play? If you press play.
Volume.
Hopefully it plays.
But it doesn't. It doesn't look like it has a little play button.
Okay. Well, it was a beautiful video, by the way. It was great music to it and everything, but honestly, we can email it to you. It just kind of, quick synopsis of it. The LaNERR groups put this video together. Our LaNERRs are from all the way in San Francisco to South Carolina, Alaska. Florida has 3. You can actually go to the next slide. But this is the big picture while we're here, is what's wrong with this picture. Louisiana does not have one, which is crazy to us because of what our area offers. So Kelly, you can flip.
So as Margaret said, you know, the big thing is we don't have a LaNERR here. And why we're here tonight. What the LaNERR will do is actually make us, on a national level, we'll be able to tell our story, like tell the story of our land, what's here. And then we're connected with all the other LaNERRs around the nation. So then you have a larger community to connect with. And then also, can you go to the next slide? So a LaNERR is happening in Louisiana. That's the one thing we want y'all to understand. There is a LaNERR that's going to happen, and we want it here in St. Mary Parish. And next slide. And we're one of 7 different sites that could possibly get it. So we don't want the LaNERR to go to anyone else. You can go to the next slide. And why do you need to know this? Because as you see, there's many different things that determines where the LaNERR is going to go, but the general support of the public and the community is one of the biggest things. The community has to be in support of it. They want to collaborate with the community fully. You can go to the next slide. And we're in the time, like this is the time that they're choosing the LaNERR. So on January 22nd, they are going to come down, a representative from the governor's office is coming down to discuss the LaNERR, and we want as many community leaders to be there in support of it. Okay, next slide.
Where is that going to be held?
We're going to get to that.
Right, yeah. So a few reasons, just to kind of go a little further, as to why do we want the LaNERR in our community, but more importantly, we can speak of it on and on, but it's more important to know the specific changes it can make. Big thing for us is the positive impact of local businesses. You know, having a LaNERR on a national level, I like to use the analogy of the person that comes in and they're in South Louisiana or driving through, and they happen to be on Highway 90 coming from Lafayette to New Orleans, and they're passing over our area, and they do a Google search and say, what's there to do in St. Mary Parish? This will pop up. This will make them take that exit instead of gas or a Subway sandwich or Castellanos. They're gonna actually stay, and maybe they'll spend the night, and then they'll go dine at a restaurant. Maybe they'll pop in at Wildflower on Front Street. The economy would be driven by it. Public boat access. This is a huge peeve of mine. I love going fishing, and I think that one of our gateways to heaven is the Berwick boat landing. But it looks like, you can't see it that well on there, but it looks like crud most of the time. But it's the access to our land. It's the access to our fishing, to our hunting, and we have to bring our tourism into this. It'll produce funding for it. You can go to the next slide. Funding for that area. Something that speaks to Kelly and I both, and I'm sure a lot of you, is the development, maintenance, new established nature and bike trails. Love being outside. Love romping around with our kids, with our family, being able to see what we have and not just see it on TV. And of course, a broader spectrum for K through 12. You know, this would provide field trips to not just our kids, but children in Houma, Thibodaux, maybe Lafayette. It would be a resource for our whole state, and to be able to have it here would be huge. And last, you can go ahead and switch, is funding for research and interpretive centers. So this is where you get to go in, and I like to think of being at like the aquarium where you touch and feel and see it all in your face. This is where our kids can go and pass-throughs can go. And I do believe that our community is on a positive momentum right now. We all kind of feel that way with, and you know, I kind of put the night bike ride. It's been awesome to see like the enthusiasm in all different realms of people, and I think that this would just be another step into that direction to look forward to.
Next slide. Okay, so these are just some common questions that you might have, but they have these on the website. Will the state have to purchase land for a Louisiana reserve? No. Will a new reserve involve NOAA taking land from the state? NOAA would not own or manage land within a LaNERR. Will the federal government run the reserve? LaNERR with partnership between NOAA and Louisiana. So there's a partnership there. Next slide. Does the designation of a reserve bring more rules and regulations? It would not add any new rules and regulations. If the reserve site is designated, will there be restrictions to existing cultural, recreational, or commercial activities that occur in the area? No. So really, the LaNERR is an enhancement to the area already that they have and to partner with them. So what could it look like if we get a LaNERR? So as Margaret was talking about, these are what the interpretive centers look like for people to come to. And one of the things that recently, I was just listening to a podcast and they were talking about with the K through 12 school systems, they have floating classrooms. So they actually take the kids to the interpretive centers and that becomes their classroom or out into the area to really study what we have in this area and a new way of studying, which could be so amazing and open their eyes to new possibilities and maybe even new jobs.
So this is where we get the goosebump feels. This is what it would look like if we got this here. This is a NERR in Apalachicola, Florida. They have 3 NERRs, by the way, which I like to highlight because we don't have any. And so these are some of the things that happen at their NERR. The bottom right is tourism boats taking tourists out to see all the land. Bottom left is adults education forums specific to everything. And then of course education to our kids. This one speaks volumes to me. I actually spoke to the director of this NERR, who was very gracious, very lively, energetic. This is in Grand Bay, Alabama, right down the road from us. So this community is very similar to ours, a kind of economic kind of decline. Definitely they were hit pretty hard by Katrina. African-American community that doesn't necessarily have access to going fishing in Point of Bear, going down to Wax Lake. They don't have the means or they don't have the resources to get down there. This Grand Bay NERR gives that to them. It allows them to go into the community. She spoke of stories of veterans being there that have lived there, come back, lived there their whole life, but have never been able to access boats to go out into the waters. So it kind of spoke big to me that they were so similar to us, and to imagine that this right here, seeing field trips of kids of all kinds coming to us to learn about our area. So we know that you do because you're the leaders of our area, especially representing all of St. Mary Parish. We want you to continue to believe in this future of our area. LaNERR site committee members already see the beauty in our area, and why a research center would thrive here. As advocates of our community, we want to stand with them to make it happen.
Okay, so the big why are we here? Because you're our leaders, as Margaret said. Really, your voice matters. People listen to you. And that's what we are inviting you to, one, really understand this project and the possibility of it being here. 2, stand behind it. And as we mentioned, is January 22nd to be in presence at the meeting, which right now it's set to be at the auditorium. Sorry, blank for a second.
What time is that?
What time is the meeting? 9:30.
9:30 on January 22nd at the auditorium. And so we will send any updates if that changes, of course, with right now with COVID, but that's what it's set to be.
Lisa, can you email that notification out to us?
Yeah. Yes, you'll get it to us.
Thank you.
And the other piece of that, next slide, our big request is to sign a resolution tonight for this.
Sorry, I forgot to change that order.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I jumped ahead. I just want to get to the ask. So we're asking you to sign a resolution in support of it being the top line zone.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. I know you'll have a lot going on.
Thank you.
I appreciate
I
it.
just want one little thing real quick, just because I like to talk about it too. But if anyone ever has any questions regarding this, all of this is public knowledge. We like to make sure that people know this isn't St. Mary Excel's project. We're just really pumped about it. And so we've kind of taken this by the horns and have kind of gone out to all these different sites to come up with this. If you Google the search for Louisiana NERR, you're gonna find pretty much all of this information, but we wanted to consolidate it in a prettier package so that you guys can see it and absorb it a little bit better. We do ask that by January 22nd that you know these things, so that when NOAA comes in and the state comes in, we all have educated questions, not what is an estuary. You know, we want to really ask the nitty-gritty questions of how this will really affect us, not just in good ways, but bad ways. I mean, this is, you know, we know that there's going to be some loopholes somewhere along the line, but we want to open up dialogue to make sure that we figure those things out so that once we get past this roadshow in January time, we can bring it out to the community. And the community are the children, the grandparents, the rah, saying we want the NERR here because of how it'll affect just, not just now, but later. So thank you all very much.
Questions?
You said there's 7 potential sites in Louisiana. What's our odds of actually getting it? Do we have good odds of getting it?
So from down the pipeline, we're looking pretty good.
I mean, we're centrally located. You
So-
would think we should have the upper hand because we're centrally located.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a lot of.
And I think that
interest
there, in reading a lot about it, you know, it weighs with community involvement, support, which is huge. NERR groups don't want to come into a city that they're not needed. They want to come into an area community that they need to change, that they want to make an impact
And who do you
on.
consider will make the final decision?
There's actually a LaNERR site committee, and they're with Louisiana Department of Wildlife, CPRA, like there's just, say again? Yeah, LAC Grant is the runner of it all. Dr. Robert Twilley, he used to be at the Louisiana Sea Grant. He's done 30+ years at research at Wax Lake and loves this area. So anyway, I mean, and for having him as like kind of like we don't want to say backer, but he speaks of us a lot, is kind of making, you know, look at, and by hearing just different things coming from different people, we're looking pretty good.
And I have a question. Have you been to the St. Mary Parish School Board to ask them?
We're going there tomorrow night.
Cool.
Having suggestions.
Yeah, we only have 5 minutes there. We have 5 minutes to go there.
Yeah, just see what you can, as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as an educator, I would definitely support something like this because this adds to the overall, when you want to educate a child, you want to educate the whole child. This is definitely something.
Can we get your contact information and have a statement for it? Because we already have one, do you mind if I can get a statement to put it on that? 'Cause, like I said, we're trying to like bang tomorrow night with them because NERRs are so, education's so important to them. And I mean, you can see it takes a little bit longer to explain it, but, so we're you know, we have a teacher at Berwick, who attended one of the workshops, and, I mean, of course, as an educator, as a mom, I can't imagine not wanting it, but, you know, there's.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, like, the more you can use your voice out there to get behind it with anybody you know, and get them to support it, share the information, is how it's gonna happen. Because I asked a specific question to Twilly, like, how do you determine which community is louder? And he's like, it's just, the less pushback that we get, the louder we are, that's gonna make their decision. And I think we have a pretty loud community in St. Mary Parish. So let's use that at our, let's not use it at our cost.
We're louder when we work together.
Exactly, that's what we need to do.
Can I get a motion to adopt this resolution?
Yeah.
Got a motion by Mr. Roth to adopt the resolution, seconded by the council. All roll call vote, please.
Okay, this is going to be on second reading, please. Mr. Ramsey.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Roth.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Adair. He's absent. Mr. Bennett.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Duhon.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Hidalgo.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Adams.
Yes, ma'am.
Reverend Matthews.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ino.
Yes, ma'am.
We have 10 yeas and 1 absent, and the resolution.
Scott, please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Mr. Orlando.
No, I just want to help you.
I just, Mr. Orlando. Let's do it. Mr. Orlando.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect, thank you. We have 10
We appreciate y'all.
yeas and
Thank you.
1 absent.
Thank you.
Okay, we should have the resolution.
Here's the resolution.
Resolution.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All in favor?
Thank you so much for taking the time.